Hi, and welcome back to our study in Proverbs, our look at wisdom and how we can apply wisdom to our life. We are in Proverbs chapter 6 today, and we're looking at a principle called diligence. Really, the one-word summary for me for this chapter of Proverbs is diligence. It's the diligent to resolve conflict. And the first part of Proverbs chapter 6, Solomon says, "My son, if you put up security for your neighbor, if you struck your hands and pledged with him, if you've been trapped in what you've said or ensnared by the words of your mouth, then do this, my son, to free yourself, since you have fallen into your neighbor's hands. Go to them humbly." Diligence. How many of you today love conflict? When you have let your mouth write a debt for your life. I think all of us have done that at some point. We've made a commitment that now we actually have to follow through on. Solomon is saying, if you have done this in a mistake, or if you have actually put up, a pledge, meaning if you've actually co-signed a loan for somebody, fix it. That was not a wise choice in the beginning, and not ever a wise choice in the financial world. But if you've done it, fix it. If you've made a commitment that you can't keep, resolve it now. Go now. Don't let fear of the conflict, don't let fear of the outcome be the reason why you just let it go and go and go and just procrastinate the inevitable, which is it's not going to be simple. But free yourself. Why? Because when you have things that are hanging over your head, it keeps you from operating at the levels that God has really given us the ability to operate at. Proverbs goes on in chapter 6 to talk about these things that are hanging over your head and unresolved. They keep you from being able to work at the level that you are working at, being creative at the level that God has given you the ability to be creative at, to actually be able to perform at the levels that God has given you the capacity to perform at. Proverbs chapter 6 through 11 really does use nature as an example of that level of performance, or that level of diligence, or that level of hard work or creativity. Go to the ant, consider its ways. It has no commander or overseer, but it keeps pushing. How do those things that are kept over your head, how do they impact your willingness to actually perform at work? Maybe there's bitterness between you and your boss, and so you're just going to do the bare minimum. Or maybe there's just, you feel like, wow, this is just, this is all I get paid to do. This is what it is. So I'm just gonna skate by. In the trades, we call it an 8 and skate. Is that really what God has for you? That's not. And God is calling us to a higher standard than that as biblical people. It goes on in verse 16 to say, there are 6 things the Lord hates and 7 that are detestable to him. Anytime you see this, you got to stop. You got to stop and not allow the aroma of, well, I guess I'm supposed to be working hard. That's the aroma of chapter 6. That's the thing that will catch your attention, is get off the couch and be productive, be creative. Do something that's going to create some space in your mind, that's going to help the synapses in your brain to broaden out and connect in better pathways. But here's a list in verse 17, 18, and 19. Here are the things that God really hates and one that he detests. One is haughty eyes, lying tongues, shedding of innocent blood, heart devises wicked schemes, and those who rush into evil, those who are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a man who stirs up dissension among brothers. Now let me put that in today's 21st century language. Arrogance, deceit, cruelty, manipulation, foolishness, people who repeat falsities, continue to repeat falsities, even though they know they're false, and divisiveness. That when things are hanging over your head, they seem to boil into some character attributes that actually become excuses in our life. Excuses for why we're not going to work hard, why we're not going to be a person of our word. Proverbs goes on in chapter 6 and verse 20, starts this conversation again about distractions like adultery. Having your heart being literally captivated in a way that breaches a covenant that you've made. Maybe there's some areas of idolatry in your life that need to be resolved. Maybe there are some things in your life that need to be corrected, and yet we continue to make excuses for our own arrogance and deceit and cruelty and foolishness and manipulation and divisiveness and even repeating falsities. I want to encourage you as you're reading through Proverbs chapter 6 to think about areas of your life where diligence is lacking. Are you a finisher? Do you finish the things you start? Do you carry on? Do you follow through on your word? Or are you a person that has become someone that cannot be counted on because you overcommit and underdeliver? Well, I want to encourage you today that Proverbs chapter 6 is really about this principle of undercommit and overdeliver. Don't allow your words to get you stuck in a pledge that's going to bring a breach in your heart that keeps you hiding or keeps you not working at your highest potential, not operating at your highest potential. Because what will end up happening is you'll find excuses, and the excuses will be based on these things that the Lord hates and detests. And then ultimately, if this goes unresolved, what happens is your heart's captivated in a way that requires some significant repentance in our own lives to come back from. And I want to encourage you today, one of the greatest stories of wisdom literature is catch things quickly. We're all going to stumble. We're all going to fall. We're all going to sin. This is why we have an advocate with a Father named Jesus. But the longer we let those things go, the longer we let unforgiveness smolder in our hearts, or the longer we allow unreconciled challenges in our lives, the longer we let those things go, the harder they are to resolve. Wisdom says, resolve it now. Be diligent to push through the fear of conflict. Be diligent to push through excuses in our lives. Be diligent to push through our character flaws, to say, Lord, I know you have better for me. I don't want to be this person. I don't want my pride to control my life. This is the story of Proverbs chapter 6. There's a progression from our words to our actions to ultimately the control and the content of our heart. So I want to encourage you today, as you are reading through Proverbs chapter 6, to press in. Be diligent. Be diligent to discover how you can be set free. The old King James actually says, free yourself like a gazelle. I love that. I've been to Africa. I've seen gazelles many times. And when they run, they are unrestrained. They just flow. So I want to encourage you today. God has called you to run like a gazelle. He's given you the strength to do it, to just flow. So Proverbs chapter 6, diligence. Go fight the good fight. Bye-bye.